Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel for another video. Today I'm using again Distress inks. No, not inks, mainly oxides. Not sure if I'm going to use inks in the end, maybe one or two. I want to make some artist trading cards today, and I'm starting with the background. And I shared that background technique with the stencils in my last video, and I'm doing the same today, just one time with this stencil. It's our mini textures, and it has 4 textures or patterns on one stencil, and they all fit perfectly in the size of an artist trading card. So these are going to be my ATC backgrounds. I'm inking up the stencil using Distress Oxides. Then I'm spritzing the stencil with water. Sorry for the noise in the background. The cat is a little bit annoyed because the weather is quite cold at the moment, and she doesn't like that. So she can't go out, and now she has too much energy and she's running around like crazy at the moment. I'm spritzing that stencil with water. I think I grabbed the wrong water bottle because I have one that does not work anymore. There comes just one tiny I don't know the word for it in English, but you don't get a good mist. So here I get a really nice mist, and I'm spraying everything until everything is wet. Try not to make it too wet. If you want to see more of this technique and a few more tips for it, check out my video from last week. I'm using a paper towel to soak up the over amount of ink that's coming out of the patterns, and I'm pressing the stencil to my paper. I'm using the Canson mixed media paper. The blue stencil did not work very well. I think I didn't give it a good press at this area because there was some ink left on the stencil. I just use a brush with a little bit of water to blend in some color. As these are just the backgrounds for the artist trading cards, it's not the main or most important thing that the backgrounds are perfect, because I'm going to add a lot more layers to them. It's just a good starting point to have some interest and texture on the background. My background is dry now, and I'm coming back in with that same stencil, and I'm lining up the stencil again with the patterns. And here I picked Distress inks. I forgot about that. I think I decided to pick Distress inks to bring in a bit more less muted colors and more bright colors. And I'm using, for each quarter, I'm using the same type of colors. So I used the mustard seed, where I had the mustard seed in the oxide version. At the top I had cracked pistachio in the oxide version, and here I'm using the peacock feathers because I don't have cracked pistachio, and that's, I would say, within the same color family. It's just more intense and darker, and that's also nice because you get a little bit more contrast. And I'm also using the worn lipstick and the tumbled glass, and I think for the print I used the broken china. I use quite similar colors to my last stencil video because I'm just in love with these colors at the moment, and yeah, these are the ones I really like. I'm using the makeup blending tools I also showed you last time. I have them for years. I'm not sure if they are still available, and I also don't know their name, so it's really hard to find them. When I bought them, I think they were quite popular, and that's I think about 5 or 6 years ago. I just realized that I've used the wrong brush for the peacock feathers, so I'm cleaning it a little bit because I don't want it to be mixing up too much with the tumbled glass. But anyways, the both greenish blue backgrounds turn out very similar in the end, but that's not a problem at all. I really love this background technique because you get a really nice textured background, and if you're using the same colors, it's only one colored background, but it has some pattern on it, and I think it's a really nice way. And you can play a little bit with the colors and mix in other colors, and like I did it in the beginning with the yellow, so everywhere is a little bit of yellow. And yeah, on the top left I also used crushed olive, I think, for the print itself. I'm now adding some drops of water here to bring in even more texture, and then once it's dry I'm going to cut down the cards to an ATC size. I used my die cutting machine, but you can just measure it and cut it by hand. I'm going to add some stamping now to the background. I wanted to create more patterns, more texture, so it gets more depth. And I'm using stamps from our Mix It Up 7 stamp set, and I'm also using our stitching borders later. I'm stamping with similar colors because I don't want to add too much contrast at this stage. I just want to add a little bit more background texture going on that's not too intense. Later I want to add a focal point, and I don't want to be the background, the star. I want the focal point to be the first thing that is visible, and then after that it could be interesting to discover the textures you have on the background. I will give you a list of all the products I've been using for the cards, and also there is a link for our blog post so you can, sorry for the noise, so you can check out the photos. I really like to use black when I want to have the colors popping up. And to make these backgrounds pop up, I'm using some black stamping as well. I'm using numbers from the same stamp set, and I just stamp them randomly to the cards. I always ink up the stamp once and then I stamp multiple times so I get more depth. I get lighter and darker images, and that makes it more dimensional, I would say. I'm using two different number stamps to bring in a little bit of a variety. I'm also stamping a border to each of the cards using our stitching borders, and I'm mixing them up. I do not use the same border around each card. I just use different borders and I stamp them to, I think I stamped this one to two sides of each card, and then I'm mixing up the rest with two other stamps to bring in some variety. I will speed up this part a little bit. When I'm done with stamping, I'm inking up the edges as well with my blending tool and the black soot Distress ink. I really feel that this gives everything kind of a frame, and I really like that look, especially for artist trading cards. Now it's time to work on the focal points. I've already stamped my images. I used black ink with clear embossing powder, and I'm now going to color them in with Distress inks. I'm using the ink pads for that, and I will try to use similar colors, I think. And how I'm doing this is I'm pressing the lid quite heavily together so I get some ink on the inside of it. And then I can pick that up with my water brush and color in my images. I'm not a big fan of stamp coloring. I usually do this quite quickly with loose techniques and never in a perfect way. I really adore the people that can color in amazingly with alcohol markers. I think that looks so good, but I just can't do that. I think I don't have the patience, and whenever I start to make it perfect, it will become even more imperfect. So I keep it loose, and I'm just throwing in some of the inks. I'm mixing this up with a little bit of yellow. I try to stay within the color family, and once I'm done with the coloring, I'm going to cut out the images and adhere them to the cards. I'm now going to cut all of these out, and then I will adhere them to the artist trading cards, and I'm also going to adhere a sentiment. I've already prepared some, and I have used the stamps from the Collage Leaves 3 stamp set. And by the way, this is a little bowl I made myself recently. Um, And yeah, I will show you the photos now at the end so you can see how the cards turned out. I just adhered the images and the words, and I've used stamps from the Pencil Marks 8 stamp set and the Collage Leaves number 3. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video today and you are a little bit inspired, and I hope we will see us next time. Bye!